All right. Let's go ahead and turn your camera off and we'll do the intros and stuff. Who's the owner? All right. Welcome to the February 2024 CPO1 meeting. We are in person at Cedar Grove Housing with Bruce Bartlett down there, and on Zoom, and we are live on YouTube as well. So I will start off with our land acknowledgement. And we acknowledge the people on whose land we live. The Athaliti Kalapuyans, also known as the Tualatin Band of Kalapuyans, the first inhabitants of Washington County. We are grateful for the land we are on, Kalapuyan land. Signers of the Willamette Valley Treaty of 1855 were removed from their homelands to the Grand Ronde Indian Reservation. Today, their descendants are tribal members of Grand Ronde and Siletz tribes, carrying on the traditions and cultures of their ancestors. We acknowledge and express gratitude for the ancestors of this place and recognize that we are here because of the sacrifices forced upon them. In remembering these communities, we honor their legacy, their lives, and their continuation in our community. I'd like to invite all of us to reflect on the role government has played in the painful colonial history, and reflect as well on the resilience and healing of the indigenous lands and communities. We invite everyone to collaborate and work together with the tribe to take care of the land and water and the people who inhabit these spaces. And I think I mentioned last month, but I recommend to everybody to try to get a copy of this book called Tribal Histories of the Willamette Valley. It's backwards, but it isn't really. And that's written by David Lewis, who is an enrolled member of the Grand Ronde tribes. And it's it's not comprehensive, but it's the most comprehensive account of what happened to the tribes in the Willamette Valley in Oregon. I highly recommend reading it. It's available at the library. It's available at Powell's, and it's also available on Libby as an ebook. There's a waiting list for all of those, but it's definitely worth it. If you are a presenter and it's not obvious what your name is, please put a note in the chat, because I see some people there that I can't really identify. Bruce, do you want to pop on your camera, and I'll go ahead and get started with our agenda. Hi, this is Bruce Bartlett, and he's down at Cedar Grove. And because we're doing hybrid meetings, and that means that you can either be there in person or you can join us on Zoom. And I know we have Tualatin Valley. I'm just making sure that we have our service providers. And right now we only have the two. So that's our first order of business. Let's go ahead and hear from Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue.
Good evening, everybody. Clint, Lieutenant Hardiman with Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue, currently stationed at 60s at up on Cornell. I just want to say thank you for all the support that we got through the winter storm. Kind of the big topic is that we're still dealing with some of the aftermath of that. Just today, we're working with local crews and Northwest Natural, who is still working on trying to supply areas that are affected from trees down, damage, from the storm. So that's still kind of a significant impact for us. Just to kind of fill everybody in on how big of an impact that was, the last winter or Sentinel event that we dealt with here at Tualatin Valley was all the way back in 2017. At that time, we were running for approximately 5 days or 6 days straight of 327 calls a day is what we were averaging. This last event lasted 7 days. We ran 506 calls a day district-wide. Here at Station 60, we were averaging 32 calls a day, and we averaged that for 6 days straight. And then our 7th day, the last kind of major day of the event before we shut down emergency operations, we ran 27 calls. So pretty significant impact for us. With that too, is that we also saw a pretty significant uptick in fire calls. The last figures that are coming in from the end of last year into this year is that we've had 30 more fires than we have had in previous years. So we're still crunching numbers and trying to figure out why we're having such a huge uptick. I know that we have quite a few areas or quite a few facilities that have been built in our area, but that has not so far affected fires. But it has affected our service and the call volume in the area. That we have quite a few more care homes. Touchmark has opened up their 3rd facility, and it's nearly at capacity. So that's been also another thing that we've been working through here at Station 60. This month is Heart Month. We have a lot of information on our website in regards to trying to get people to recognize the signs and symptoms of heart-related problems, cardiac-related problems. One of those things is, people dealing with chest discomfort, or when they're working out, they may feel like they may a little twinge, they may kind of downplay it. What we're trying to recommend people to do is monitor how you're feeling. Please call 911. We work really, really hard. We work very closely with ACLS out of Vancouver. We work with a lot of our local agencies, and we have a physician advisor through OHSU that we train on a regular basis with, and work really hard at recognizing the signs and symptoms of cardiac-related illnesses. So at any point in time, please don't downplay that. Please give us a call. There is quite a bit of more information out there at tvfr.com, and as well as some really great information that we're starting to try to push out on some of the social media platforms, including Instagram and YouTube. So take a look for those. And if you have any questions, please reach out to us. I do have a public affairs officer, Karine Hanning. She's with us tonight. I know that she wanted to do some brief, some information on the local option levy that we're working on. That's coming up in May. So if we have time to talk about that, I can hand it off to her, and I'll do that. So if you have any questions for me, please feel free to ask right now, and otherwise I'm going to hand it off to Corinne. All right. Thank you, Corinne. I'm going to hand that off to you. I appreciate you being here tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Lieutenant Hardiman. Actually, I spoke with Virginia ahead of time, and it sounds like April is the month that everybody would like to hear the different measures and levy information that will be on the ballot. So if anyone has any questions, either about incident response that Lieutenant Hardiman could help answer, or community or public affairs, we're happy to be a resource. Otherwise, we will see the rest of our time and hand it over.
Why don't you put your email in the chat box for people?
Sure, I'm happy to do that.
Great. Okay, looks like we have sheriff deputy down there at Cedar Grove. So let's hear from you. Go ahead and introduce yourself. And we got 2 sheriff people.
Megan, why don't you go first? All right. So if we haven't met, I want to introduce myself. I'm Megan Rasmussen. I am the new liaison for the Cedar Mills area for the Washington County Sheriff's Office. So you'll be seeing me at these meetings, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions regarding anything going on at the Sheriff's Office. Just a couple of quick updates for you. We are currently recruiting for our reserve program. We are having an open house on March 23rd. So if you're interested in the reserve deputy program, these are sworn volunteer law enforcement officers who assist full-time deputies. And they receive the same high-level training. So if you have questions and want to learn more about that opportunity, we encourage you to come to our open house. That's again on March 23rd. We are also recruiting. Sorry, I'm looking this direction because my notes are on the screen.
We all need notes.
Yeah. We are also recruiting for our search and rescue program. Our search and rescue team are made of 14 to 17-year-olds. They receive a lot of training and obviously specialized focus on different things. So if you have a 14 to 17-year-old who might be interested in joining that program, there's a lot of informational meetings. I will go ahead and put the websites in the chat here shortly.
Make
so
sure that
you
I
can
get those.
take a look.
Make sure I get those for the March issue of Cedar Mill News.
Of course, happy to send them to you. And then I'll pass it over to Deputy Orozco. I can pull up the calls for service and he can go over that.
I'll start off with saying that I spoke with Deputy Huey, who I guess was here last time, and I asked him about the scanner feed update.
Yeah.
At this time, there's still no update. WACA is working on getting that fixed. So at this point, we're kind of waiting on them. On this map.
That was sort of a hangover from a previous meeting, and I tried to get the staff to remove that from the description, and they didn't get the message.
That's all right.
I'm sorry, I didn't want to put extra stress. We were really happy to hear about it. So I think it was December meeting. But I'll make sure it doesn't keep repeating. So.
No worries, no worries. So again, this is just a map of the crimes in this general area. One of the things you see is that there's a lot of red concentrated in the middle there. Red is just, it's a lot of theft, specifically here in from like Safeway to Target area. And we are partnering with our businesses nearby to provide them with some proactive resources if we can. It's not always available, but sometimes we can. We at one point parked one of our vehicles in front of Target just to deter crime at those locations. But it is something that if you know business owners that want to reach out, it's something that we're willing to work on. It doesn't mean that we can do something, but we can definitely work with them and see what we can do for them. And that is all I have, unless any questions, of course.
Great. Yeah, I see some stuff down near Nike there that we don't usually see a bunch of stuff going on down there.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we all heard about the shoplifter at Target that had a gun. Yes. They didn't use the gun in the shoplifting, did they?
They did not, no. We caught him for shoplifting and the gun was found on him and it was a stolen gun.
Some excitement. I've seen people chatting online about a high degree of shoplifting at Target. And so I was a little surprised to see it become a big news item, maybe because this was a little extra dramatic because the person was found with a gun.
I have a question. In Washington County, or I guess in Oregon, when you own a gun, is it recommended or required that you register the gun with an organization? Because you found that it was a stolen gun, and so
Yeah, this is a stolen gun.
doesn't have a when it's your own gun.
So when you purchase a gun, they, wherever you purchase it, they have to, they register it so that when, because there's a background check done on you. So they register it, so if I run into you and you have a gun on you, we can run the serial number and it'll come back to the owner.
Okay, so if somebody bought a gun from an individual who was not a registered gun salesman, then it would be on the person who bought the gun to register it?
Not necessarily, because again, in order for the gun to be considered stolen, you have to report that. So like if you were to lose a gun, you report that I lost this gun, and then that would go into a database that tracks that.
Okay, but if I bought a gun from somebody,
You don't have to.
But I could.
You could, yes.
Okay, and it would be recommended probably that
It's up to the person.
We don't have any idea how many guns there are in a given community, do we? Or do we?
And we don't.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it looks like we also have someone from THPRD. Did you guys have anything more to share? I'm looking forward to meeting up with you, Megan. And by the way, there's only one Cedar Mill. It's really hard to keep track between Cedar Hills and Cedar Mill, and CPO 1 represents both of them, but a lot of people say
Liaison
Cedar Mill.
for that
Yeah.
whole area. So.
Right. And we even have some old signs from the 30s where it said Cedar Mills. So it's a long process. Let's hear from Nicole. Hi, there you are out in the garden again.
Hi, Virginia. Hi, everybody. Nice to see you. I am Nicole Paulson. I'm the liaison for Tualatin Hills Park and Recreation District, and we have quite a few updates that I'm going to run down. Virginia, did I hear that we also, similar to Tualatin Valley Water District, have information on the levy that we will be putting out in May?
We're gonna hope to kind of limit that to the April meeting, and then it'll be all levy all the time.
That sounds great. I will put a link to our levy update.
Sure.
And the one comment I will state is that our board did unanimously approve to move that forward to the May vote. So I'll let Holly know, who is talking about our levy with all of our represented groups. And so I'll let her know to come back in May.
Great.
Yeah, the updates I do have is similar also to Tualatin Valley. We've worked on winter storm recovery. We have had quite a number of trees down, as well as water issues within our facilities. Largely, our tree damage was concentrated in the northeast and easterly portions of our district, with impacts really to the Cedar Mill and Cedar Hills area, including Jordan Woods, Roger Tilbury, which saw some really, McMillan Park, which saw some pretty significant tree loss in that area. So we are still working to clean a lot of that up. Some big items to note, again, the levy, I'll put the information in the chat for the link. And spring registration is right around the corner. We are looking at Saturday, February 24th for in-district residents, and Monday, February 26th for out-of-district. Spring break is also coming up. We've got open swim times available throughout Sunset Swim Center, as well as our other locations. In that, we also have opportunities for youth volunteers, junior lifeguards, track and field coaches, and I can also put that information, those links in to the chat, but you're more than welcome to find out more of that information on our website. And February events, some of the ones that might be appropriate for Cedar Mill area, we've got the Lonely Fish Fest at Sunset Swim Center, as well as our spring native plant sale, which begins February 25th. I know that's one that a lot of folks are always interested in joining and attending. So if you have or are interested in getting text alerts from THPRD, there is an opportunity to sign up that would provide you the latest on THPRD operations or maybe new things or events that are coming out. And I will also put the information on the number to text in order to join for that information. And that is about all I have, unless there's any additional questions that anyone has for me.
There's a question in the chat.
Let's see what we've got here. Question, if you feel comfortable. Some of the neighbors are wondering if THPRD can see the large trees for funding instead of cutting the large trees into 16-inch rounds. Oh, to
I think
sell?
what she means is selling them for logs, or selling them for lumber.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure what the actual process is, but typically when we are giving or when we have items, whether they're donated or I don't know if we have a selling procurement process for natural area items, but it's a great question. I think at this time, due to safety concerns, we are looking at ensuring that we can collect all of the debris that has been down and then remove it as safely and appropriately. But one that I'm willing to take back and get back to you if you'd like.
I wanted to just quickly share my screen for a moment because I happen to have a couple of pictures of the Bluffs Trail, which also is a route to Bonnie Slope Elementary School. And that's the Bluffs Trail before. And that's the Bluffs Trail after the crew got in very quickly and cleared enough of the trail so that the kids could get to school. It was a big concern in our neighborhood. I have a Cedar Mill News group, and it turned out to be a godsend for our neighbors because everybody was sharing information back and forth, and they were going, can the kids get to school on our trail? And you guys just got out there and did it.
Well, we will, I will take that sentiment back to our team. I know that internally we have just given immense gratitude to the winter storm team that has really traversed the district in ensuring that there are walkable, safe routes and that any kind of damage is able to be mitigated for residents to still use our parks and facilities.
Absolutely. Thanks. And we're going to be happy to hear from you in April about the levy. I'm sorry, we just have only so much time.
I understand. Well, again, I'll put that information and the links in the chat. I hope you guys have a great evening, and we'll talk to you soon.
Hey,
Great.
Virginia.
Yeah.
I mentioned that things go into the chat only to the hosts and panelists, and the people and the attendees aren't able to see it. So for public information, we might want to have the posters.
Make sure to post to everyone. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, we have.
I will see. You know what? I can switch that and I will make sure that it gets to everyone. Thanks for that reminder. I appreciate it.
A lot of people said, oh, can't they sell these trees for lumber? And there's just, I've heard lumber blogger types say that, no, it's just a matter of the cost of acquiring a tree or two in a certain location is more than what the value of the tree for lumber would be. It's sad. It's unfortunate. We all wish it was some good way to use these trees. But
for
we also have somebody. Okay. We have Frank Reed from the Tualatin Valley Water District. Frank?
All right. Hi, everyone. As always, thanks for having me here. I just kind of want to echo what everybody else was saying about the ice storm and thank everyone for their patience with us, at least during the storm. We took about 500 calls with the vast majority of them with no water to homes, either through mostly through frozen pipes, some broken pipes, which can kind of suck the water out, which would leave people without water. Major main breaks were actually pretty limited, so that was nice. And most of our crews spend a majority of their time, if they weren't responding to house calls, keeping generators going at facilities without power. So we had a lot of people going around refilling them with gas and everything. So all in all, we didn't have any major issues with the actual water system, which is very good for us. But I do want to take the time to remind people that it's not too late to prepare your pipes in case we get more freezing weather. And everyone in your house should know how to turn off your water. And if you do have an issue, be sure to call us and leave 911 for life-threatening emergencies and first responders. So we are the experts at coming to turn off water, and leave our friends at the fire department and the police to handle the 911 calls.
I was surprised how many people had burst pipes and water damage after all the outreach we'd all been doing to tell people to, to take steps. Can people's houses get burst pipes even if they've done all the right stuff, like protecting their outside outlets and letting the water drip and stuff?
Yeah,
I know one lady had 7 burst copper pipes that she shared on our group page.
And you can take all the precautions in the world, but sometimes things just happen. So especially if you have a lot of pipes on exterior walls, and with as cold as it was, it really does happen. We actually did a news article from someone who, same thing. She did all the preparation and she still ended up with the burst pipe. So we just had that conversation with her. There's, you did the right thing, but sometimes stuff just happens. So
dang.
Yeah. But it definitely minimizes the possibility of happening if you take the proper precautions. So I do want to.
And I also understand that the newer plastic, I know they're not plastic, but the plastic type pipes can expand a little better than copper.
Yeah, the PEX mostly. So yeah, like a lot of the newer houses, they do have the PEX in there, and they're less likely to break as well. So. Yeah,
I thought they were kind of cheesy, but now I'm glad I have them.
yeah. But as I said before, the most important thing is not everyone in your household should know how to turn off their water. So my 11-year-old and my 14-year-old that live here both know how to turn off the water, as well as my wife. So not just you, everyone should know how. So
excellent. Thank you.
And then also I wanted to mention, so we have been working on a pretty big project to verify that we don't have any lead connections in our service system. So what's been happening is we actually partnered with a contractor who is digging up about 400 randomly selected water meters. They're actually going in and digging around the water meters and visually inspecting them to make sure they don't have any lead pipes or any lead connections, both on our side and the customer side of the meter. So we are almost done with that. We should finish probably in the next week or two, because the contractor's actually been moving pretty fast. And we are very happy to report that we have not found a single instance of lead connections, pipes, solder, anything in our system. So we didn't expect to, and we don't expect to, but this is a nice way just to verify that we're not.
That's great. I lived in Northeast for a while, and we did have lead pipes. And that's when I started using a interior sink water filter. Okay. And I just got in the habit with that, even though I know our water is lead free.
Yeah. So yeah. It's as hopefully it's not the water itself; it's all the piping and the connections and everything that used to contain lead. So but yeah. Yep.
But yeah, in Portland we had a lot of lead up in the Northeast Alameda neighborhood. Lots of lead.
Oh. Yeah. So probably older houses, I take it then. Definitely older houses. Yep. So, and then just one last thing is we are starting to do our notifications. So if you have what we call a backflow prevention device, which if you have like a hot tub or some other thing that uses water besides just your typical water meter at your house, you're required to have what's called a backflow device. And basically what that does is it just prevents water from going backwards out of your house or like a hot tub or something into the public water system, which could possibly contaminate it. So those do have to be tested yearly, and we are just starting to send out all of the notifications to remind people. We do have a plan where we'll take care of the testing for you and up to $50 in repair. And it costs $35. That's just added to your water bill, but we take care of all the scheduling, the testing, the contractor, And then, like I said, $50 for a repair if there's something wrong with it. So I'll put the link to that in the chat, and I'll make sure it goes to everyone and not just the hosts and the attendees.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, any questions for me?
Doesn't seem like it. I'd love to have a little bit of a report about the lead testing for the March issue of the paper.
Oh, okay. Let me, in fact, I just had a discussion about the March issue of the paper. We might wait until April because we're not quite done with it yet. And it'd be nice to do an actual wrap up. But if we are done in the next week or two, I'll send you something. Otherwise, plan on something in April.
Great. I like to keep people informed about all this stuff.
Awesome. Yeah.
Okay. I think we have had information from all of our community partners. So I have some CPO updates. We have a link to the January meeting. That's what that link I just posted is, to the YouTube video of the January meeting, which was very interesting. An update on LUT road projects and another topic that I can't remember. Sorry. That is a link to the CPO news for February, in case you missed it. It had some development updates and a few other things. We've been talking about the Office of Equity, Inclusion, and Community Engagement giving a report to the Board of County Commissioners, and it's been postponed multiple times since last July. And we are now told that it's postponed indefinitely while the County Council studies the public meetings rule and the rules that enable the CPO program. And so we're just carrying on in our typical fashion. And we hope that they don't decide we're a legal liability to the county. But they're working on figuring it out. I would say everybody just hang tight. The next update that I want to share is CPO 7 had a meeting last night, and they simulcast on Facebook, and that's the link for that. And it's for a development, and I will share this. It's for development. I'm sorry, it's not a very good image, but that's what I have. This is Pioneer Street, which is parallel to Butner. And over here, over here, it's upside down. Over here is the THPRD Turbining Center. There's Pioneer, and this is Northwest 150th. And this is an example of middle housing, which is a new land use rule that Oregon passed early last year, I believe, that calls for denser housing in the zoning that should be R5, R6, and so forth, that allows for denser housing. And it was a lively meeting with lots of neighbors. This is actually in CPO 7, but it's very close to CPO 1 as well. So if anybody is near that area and wants to learn more about it, I recommend watching the Facebook Live video, which is at that link that I just shared. There it is. And also, we just got a development application for development right here next to Findlay Elementary on Thompson Road. And I fiddled with the image that they sent us just so that you could see that it's next to Findlay Elementary and near the THPRD Park property at the corner of Thompson and Saltzman. And this is the future alignment of Kenny, which is Thompson, going to be Thompson. So once that's in place, all of the traffic from this development is going to have to go around here. But maybe they have that all figured out. But the meeting is, oh gosh, when is it? I'm sorry, it's February 27th. I just posted it on the CPO1 webpage. It's Tuesday, February 27th at 6 p.m. And it's information about that is on the CPO Facebook page. I'm sorry. So if you're interested in that, go to the CPO1 Facebook page. That's about all I have from CPO1 development and neighborhood meeting information. And now it is time for open mic announcements from members. Anybody that has anything that I haven't covered or that you want our neighbors to know about, now's the time to speak up, please. Anybody? Raise your hand, post something in chat. Bruce, you got anything?
I am plumb out of things. I did have a lot of tree damage on my property, and the notion that it takes a lot of trees to be worth a logging crew coming in to pick up the trees is true. And there's something about valley pine is not, or valley fir is not as valuable as a higher elevation fir. So
I just read a theory today that I found very interesting. The Cedar Mill News Group is still a really valuable asset for the community. I don't get any money out of it, honestly. I just set it up so that neighbors could talk. And someone said that their tree person said that the trees themselves froze, that the needles and the trunks and everything froze because it was so cold, and it made them more susceptible to getting blown over. So it was just kind of a perfect storm, I guess we could call it. I'll just share something a little bit light that I paid to bring you, and I ran it too small in the paper, but I just think it's funny. Sure is coming down outside, snowing, blowing. And I tracked a guy down and paid his rep to be able to use the cartoon. And it just seems so perfect for Cedar Mill because we got both. Okay, I think that's it. And Bruce, I'd like to ask you to take away the hosting of the next segment, since it was your idea and you organized it.
you bet. Well, I am a big fan of the last free public space in America, which is our library system. And it is sort of a miracle, in my opinion, that we have as robust a library system as we do in the face of funding challenges. And there's occasionally a political issue that comes up. But libraries do much more than just check out books. They form a very integrated part of our communities. And here in Cedar Mill, we're very lucky to have the Cedar Mill Community Library, which I think still has the largest circulation of any community library west of the Mississippi. If I'm incorrect, Liz, I'm sure you'll correct me, but I'd like to introduce Liz Paulus, the adult outreach coordinator for the library system. Did I get your title right?
I'm actually an adult services librarian. I do a lot of different things. We do have outreach librarians. I do not technically have that in my title, but today I'm doing outreach. So
Okay, here we go.
librarians are multifaceted. That's one thing you'll find. We do lots of different things.
Well, Liz, take it away.
Great. Thanks, Bruce. It's good to be here at CPO1. My name is Liz Paulus, and I'm an adult services librarian at Cedar Mill and Bethany Community Libraries. Thanks for the invitation. We're happy to share with you an overview of what we do at the libraries to support community engagement and lifelong learning in Washington County. We'll provide both an overview of services provided by our 2 locations, both inside in the buildings and out in the neighborhoods. I'll be joined by our executive director, Peter Leonard, near the end, who will offer some insights on how our nonprofit library association operates, with information and how it fits into and complements countywide library services. I'm going to, I have an opportunity to share my screen. I'm going to go ahead and set up the slides. So give me just a second. Get the right window. To share, one moment. There we go. So if you're not already aware, by the way, if you're not already a user of the library, or if you know people that say, why do I need a library? I hope that we can help you figure out how to get a library card before the end here. We'll talk about it later. We'll talk about it at the end, but everybody should have a library card. Librarians have the right to say that. We think it's important. So if you're not already familiar, Cedar Mill and Bethany Libraries provide service to Washington County residents that live in urban unincorporated areas, primarily north of Highway 26 and east of Hillsborough. Here's a map of all of the WCCLS library locations. We are a member of the Washington County Cooperative Library Services Cooperative, which is managed by Washington County, and we are 16 libraries that work in nine different cities, 3 nonprofits, and one library is run by the county. As you can see from the map, we're up in CPO1, CPO7 territory. So we've been serving there for a long time. The libraries,
both your map and the next slide on the screen. I don't know if you can fix that, but it's a little bit distracting.
I'm sorry, you can see all parts of
slideshow.
One moment.
Thanks. There we go. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about it's not big enough.
That's okay. I just wanted to be sure that you were.
It's in an odd presentation mode. And I wanted to make sure the slides were big enough to be able to be seen, but it looks like that's a little bit odd. Let's try that. Okay. Does that make sense?
That works.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll have the map. The Cedar started in the mid-1970s. The Cedar Mill Community Library Association has grown from a borrowed bookmobile to 2 locations with 50 staff serving over 80,000 residents as part of the county library cooperative. Using your library WCCLS library card, you have free access to over 1.6 million items to borrow, both in print, in person, and online. As you probably know, we have lots of things people can borrow. Lots of things, lots of free to borrow. We still have people coming in saying, can I rent a video? And we say, yes, but it's free. So you probably know about books, video, music CDs, audiobooks, magazines, DVDs, graphic novels, fiction, nonfiction. We also have lots of digital collections. Ebooks and audiobooks are more popular than ever. This last year was the first time we had more checkouts of e-content than physical content. They're almost equal, and we passed that in the late 2003. We also have So relatively new digital magazines, the digital newsstand and New York Times newspaper online. You can read the New York Times for free. You just get 3-day passes. You can do it over and over again. It's really great. And the digital newsstand product offered by Press Reader offers access to magazines and newspapers from around the world in many different languages. It's a really great service. If you haven't tried it out, we can get you set up. We have streaming video. Canopy is really great for classic movies, documentaries, and lots of wonderful older television shows, really worth trying out. We don't have just digital content. We have lots of things that aren't books that you can check out. If you're not aware of the Library of Things, our Washington County is quite in the forefront of lending things that are not books from the library. Newest at Cedar Mill, we just started a seed library, which means you can come in and take seeds for free. We are distributing seeds. Come on in and ask about that. We're really excited about that for the spring. We lend technology, sports instruments, and then we also have the largest circulating board game collection in a public library in the United States out of Washington County. Board games are amazing and they're great for engagement. So that's more that you can find at the library. We're really happy to see you and help you with that. Beyond the library, we've restarted the Adventure Pass, what's now called Adventure Passes, being able to get passes for going to the museum and other local venues. Very popular venues like the Japanese American Museum of Oregon, the Lansu Chinese Garden, Rice Northwest Museum of Rocks and Minerals. That's a wonderful service provided at the county level. And besides things that you can borrow, part of our mission statement is to instill a joy of reading for people of all ages and also foster lifelong learning. We have done a lot of expansion in some venues. We've been supporting our diverse multilingual communities with materials in more than 18 languages for adults and over 70 languages for children. Our World Languages program, we are really excited about some new changes in 2024, including expanding story times for preschoolers in 4 different languages. So we have world language story times this spring for the first time. We're really excited about Spanish, Korean, Hindi, and Mandarin. Bookshare, our child care center program for early literacy, has expanded to offer materials in 10 different languages. And we also, for adults, we've started English for speakers of other languages, Spanish conversation hour programs for adults. We have other services for doing language learning and other lifelong learning. You can do language learning online with Mango Languages. It's all really great. If you can use it on an app or a computer, ask us about that. We can get you started. And if you're looking to learn stuff for your business or job hunting or learning to use a new design software, LinkedIn Learning is your tool. It is an amazing collection of thousands of videos of free online courses, high quality courses in these topics. Find this and more with our career and job information section as hosted on the WCCLS website. There's so much material and content you can get through the library with your library card. In person, our library offers technology open lab sessions, so folks can come into the library on a regular basis and get help with things like their smartphone or their technology. It's to help people with technology and different aspects of using laptops, tablets, and cell phones. We also have a number of video tutorials that we can share. We're really want to be here to help you, enable you to learn and use the tools that we have in our lives, which are very technology oriented these days. Libraries are not just the stuff that sits in the building or the things we send out. Libraries are community gathering spaces, and we provide services and things that we can provide in our libraries. One thing back to technology, we offer Wi-Fi. At the Cedar Mill location, the Wi-Fi is on 24/7 in the parking lot for people that don't have regular schedules. We offer printing. Cedar Mill even has photocopying. You can also use our Print Anywhere email service for printing. Internet stations, of course, and meeting rooms. We were so glad to be able to reopen our meeting rooms after the pandemic. The libraries have 3 meeting rooms for nonprofit community groups and organizations, including the Bethany Annex and the meeting rooms at Cedar Mill. I see there's a question in chat about faxing. The Cedar Mill Library has a hosted fax machine, but it is a service that it's a paid service that we just provide the location for it. When we have people that come to the Cedar Mill Library and ask about faxing, we give them the two opportunities. They can use the for pay service that's in the library, or we suggest that there is a Mailboxes and More just down the street from us. So it depends on what your needs are and how you want to handle it. We don't do any troubleshooting, but there is an opportunity for it. Thanks, Virginia. So our middle name is Community, and we've started. Our library was started by volunteers. Community is in the middle of our main motto: your community, your library. So our connections are very important, and that's what we're here for. I'd like to take a moment to talk about volunteers. Volunteers started the library almost 50 years ago, and the library's mission has always been supported by thousands of generous, wonderful neighbors and community members who have dedicated so many of their hours. Just in 2022 and 23, volunteers contributed over 16,000 hours of work to support librarian operations and programs. We do have about 50 employees at Cedar Mill and Bethany libraries, but we couldn't do it alone. The volunteers really are essential, and it is a way for us to connect and get to know and also serve our community by making these connections between individuals. We really appreciate everyone who volunteered. Other examples of library outreach. I said I wasn't an outreach librarian. We have people who are dedicated to that work. Some of the things that you will hear from us doing outside the building. I mentioned Bookshare previously. Bookshare is a program through our youth services program that provides and connects with early literacy tools and support for childcare and daycare centers around our area. And they've been a leader in this process for over 20 years from Cedar Mill, really reaching out. They're now partnering across the county with other libraries to do this kind of work. In the past fiscal year, they put out over 60,000 books in the hands of kids in childcare. They're also expanding language services and doing a lot more work. Our youth services and our young adult librarian, who works with middle schoolers and teenagers, they connect with kids where they learn at school through class visits of 8. And so some of our librarians saw over 6,000 kids during the last school year doing class visits to schools. Book groups for assisted living facilities. We also go to the Cider Festival, doing tabling at events. We are expanding, doing that kind of outreach, giving free books, having free book giveaways and all kinds of stuff. And one thing that we've had a long relationship with the local CPO 1, where those volunteers that helped start the library were some of the same people who helped start the original CPO back in the mid-70s. Currently, we keep current information displays, and then as needed, development plans if there are physical objects that we'd like to share for the community. Virginia Bruce has brought some over to share. So we try and stay connected with those kinds of groups. So I'm just throwing up this one slide. For those of you who can't see the slides, it's a list. It's basically an infographic of Cedar Mill and Bethany libraries by the numbers. Some of the numbers I mentioned today are already there. Over 60,000 books delivered by Bookshare. 4,700 new library cards issued. Our circulation from our two libraries was over 2.264 million, almost 2.25 million items were circulated out of Cedar Mill and Bethany items this past fiscal year. So there's a bunch of other numbers there. So we'll be answering questions at the end. I'm going to hand off the mic to the Executive Director, Peter Leonard, to do a bit more talking about how Cedar Mill, the association, operates the libraries, funding, and how it integrates with the county on a larger level. Peter, are you there?
Yes.
Thanks.
Hi.
Go ahead.
Nice to see everybody. Thanks for having us. I'll go through my section and we can take questions too. Basically, I'll talk a little bit about how the library is funded. Most of our funding does come from Washington County. We get about 91%. And the next big contributor to the library is our second edition resale shop, which sells all kind of used merchandise, clothing, housewares. And that is run with many volunteers and has been in existence just about as long as the library's been in existence. The other big piece is fundraising, contributions from individual users and donors, and then a number of different grants we go for, as well as interest, miscellaneous things, copy machine, various things like that. So to explain a little bit about county funding, in Washington County, from its earliest days up until 1976, there was no county funding for libraries. There were some cities that had libraries like Beaverton, Hillsborough, Cornelius. In the early 1900s, some of them were Carnegie Library buildings that were built. But in 1976, WCCLS, Washington County Cooperative Library Service, was organized by the county, and they issued their first serial levy in 1976. And proceeds from that library were distributed to libraries, and they also went to provide some of the county infrastructure to support libraries, like a common catalog and courier. The funding for libraries in the county was based on a serial levy that was renewed every 3 to 5 years up until the mid-1990s. Then in the mid-90s, there were a lot of tax limitation measures that were advanced to voters. Some of you may remember some of them, like Measure 5. There was Measure 47, which was then modified by Measure 50. And some of the tax limitations measures had the intention of trying to protect taxpayers from ever-increasing property tax burden. So, but what happens, it affects public services like libraries and everything else funded by government. But after Measure 50 passed, the serial levy went away. But the amount of money that was raised by the serial levy was folded into the county general fund. And at that time, the county commissioners said, since those funds came specifically for libraries, we will continue to use that portion of funds to fund libraries across the county. So after several years of that, increasing costs and growth in the county led to efforts to get a local option levy to add to the general fund. So first levy or two additional local option levy were not successful, but the third one in 2004 was successful. So that taxpayers voted to add money from a local option funding, which along with the general fund went into library services. So in rough numbers, about 60% of library funding comes from the general fund, and then 40% comes from these local option levies that are renewed every 5 years now. Last year, or this current fiscal year, the county experienced a lot of constraints in their general fund, and they could see that revenues were increasing a little bit less than 5%, but expenses were increasing about 7%. So they took efforts last spring to figure out how to reduce that gap, because it was only going to get worse as time progressed. So they basically went through all different general fund departments, including the libraries, and ended up reducing some of the funding for libraries. WCCLS absorbed many of those cuts, and they shielded local libraries, including Cedar Mill and Bethany, from cuts, but WCCLS took cuts in some of their ebook purchases. Some of their staffing was not filled, and they use more of their reserve fund to mitigate those cuts. So WCCLS is an unusual structure. It started back in 1976 with maybe 10 libraries. Now there's 16 libraries, and the libraries are run by 9 different cities, 3 nonprofits. Cedar Mill and Bethany are one of those nonprofit organizations. And then one of the libraries, West Slope Library, is run by Washington County. And that's an old library that was in existence back in the 1950s, I think, and they kind of got absorbed by Washington County. But WCCLS basically distributes funding to all the member libraries, and they provide the backbone of services like internet, our catalog that people can search for books on, all of the ebook licensing and purchases, and then all the courier that unites all the libraries together and trades books across all the libraries. Then member libraries, they're responsible for all of their local operations, staffing, and buildings. So every individual library has slightly different setup about how they can support local libraries. In the case of Cedar Mill and Bethany, since we are in unincorporated Washington County and do not have a local government, we rely upon our nonprofit organization to raise supplemental funds to operate the library, namely our second edition resale and any kind of fundraising or grants we can secure, where other libraries like Beaverton or Hillsborough use some of their local tax base. So, excuse me, over the years, the system just grew organically. And if you were ever to start a library system, you would not set it up the way it's currently set up, but it actually works in many good manners. There's a lot of local control. The county's been a very good funding partner. In 2008, there was a firm from Kansas City called Consensus, and they studied different alternative governance models. And as they looked at those, they analyzed the services in our county and came up with a few options for how you might fund them and how you might organize them in a more thoughtful or coherent manner than it evolved over time. But at that point, everybody at the table that was running libraries, cities, as well as nonprofits, looked at the scenarios and said the pain of changing to a new system was much greater than just continuing the status quo. So they said, we'll have to revisit this if the funding ever becomes an issue in the future. So because of funding constraints, oh, excuse me, in 2023, the time was ripe to look at different funding and different governance models within our county. So the county recently hired a company from Tualatin, consultant firm called Marina and Company, and they are still going through their contracting phase, but they will begin their work in March of this year. And what they'll do this year is they will evaluate all the existing services that are provided across the county, just do a baseline assessment. They'll come and explore different levels of funding, how you might generate funds to support libraries, and they'll look at levy rates through this year into early 2025. The goal of the first phase of their work is to develop an amount for the local option levy, which will be put to the voters in November of 2025, so a little bit more than 18 months away. And once that is done, they're going to turn their focus onto longer-term funding and governance options through 2026 and look at if there's some way to reorganize libraries in a more coherent fashion. So that's a little bit about that. And a couple other just quick things about the library, things you might be curious about. Some of the big issues we have and we've had since the beginning is lack of space in our buildings. Because we do not live in a city and we don't have a city tax base or the taxing authority to build a building, we are rent our space here as well as the space in Bethany. So it's very difficult to get adequate space. Most modern libraries have about 1 square foot per capita to serve people, to provide adequate space. And with about 80,000 people in our service area, we have about 28,000 square feet. So we're really undersized. Other challenges in our community, we have lots of the same challenges every community has. There's a rise of many people that are living on the edge that don't have permanent housing. There's issues with mental illness, and library's not immune to this. We have our share of different kinds of inappropriate behavior in the library, but we're in much better shape than some of our neighboring libraries that have, far worse situation. One of the things you might have heard about too is there's been a fair amount of book challenges across the country. And this is kind of like it's almost a coordinated attack on people's right to read things. And we've been fortunate in Cedar Mill. We've only had a few books that have been challenged, and we've been able to keep the items in our collection. But schools particularly are very vulnerable as activists choose to influence what kinds of items are available for students to read and to learn about in school. And the library's point of view is we'd like individuals to make those decisions. We want to provide a wide variety of information for people. The other big thing happening this year is the library will celebrate its 50th anniversary of its founding. So back in 1974, a group of residents in Cedar Mill organized themselves into the Cedar Mill Community Library Association and started the very first library in Cedar Mill. And since that time, the library's grown. And like Bruce said at the beginning, it is one of the biggest nonprofit libraries in the United States. And definitely, it's the biggest one west of the Mississippi. And we have a really positive user base. People enjoy using the library. And those are the big things happening. So Liz or I'd be happy to take any questions.
Virginia has a question in the chat.
Question into chat. Yeah, it never occurred to me before, but can parents control what their kids check out? I hope not.
Well, they can control it themselves, but they can't have the library control it. Like we can't, supervise. Right. We have more than 1,000 people a day.
No way for a parent to interfere between you and the kid.
Well, it's the parents' right. I mean, if they want to tell the child to not read something, that's definitely their right.
Of course, but the library doesn't get in between that.
No.
Thank goodness.
Yes, it's all up to we have a number of different ways people can manage library cards. I mean, you can have a single card for the family. You can have associated cards where you can each see each other's card. You can do everything separately. One of the new programs that we have is that students that enter the Hillsborough or the Beaverton school districts actually are issued a youth card, which is a limited access card to be a way to get students connected to the library early. It's been a very positive program, but everyone can opt out. They can use and they can change what kind of card they have. So It has a lot to do with how you want to how a family wants to manage their own information, and the library is not there to. The library is there to enable them to do what they find is right.
What's the limited access that the card provides?
A youth access card or a student card. It's called a youth access card right now. Is currently you can check out 5 physical things and use digital ebooks, essentially. A regular card, you can check out 100 things, like way too many things. The limits are really high. It's like you can have 50 DVD. I mean, you can have a lot of stuff, but starting with the kids, they can check out. So a student can walk in with their youth access card, which is based on their student ID, which is an arrangement that's been worked through between WCCLS and the school district. It's been a multi-year effort to make this all work, and they can come in and check out a physical book.
Is it for all libraries in the county or all school districts?
What was that?
Is it for all school districts?
Peter, I don't think so. I don't work in that part of the business. I know that at Cedar Mill we see students from the Beaverton School District, and I know that there are also Hillsborough School District students that get that treatment.
Yeah, there's a few other libraries too that have started to offer the student cards. So I'm going to say most of the school districts.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I understand that there's no longer overdue fees for books. I know I used to feel like when I kept a book a little too long, I was supporting the library, but is that a problem? Tell us about a little bit about that.
Yes, we were very excited to be able to move to a the logic behind having no fees and changing the way that finance works is that having those little fees, like just little fees, could be a very big obstacle for people who have it could be a very big obstacle with people for whom having a steady place to live, or even just trying to manage money from week to week, those were very low fines, and we had difficulty collecting on them anyway. The cost of collecting the fees was so high that when you started to look at it as a larger ecosystem, it made a lot of sense. And this argument had been made in a lot of other library districts around the country. I don't remember, Fort Vancouver Regional Library stopped 10 years ago. It's been a thing that's been out there, and Washington County was able, all 16 libraries were able to come to this agreement. So it now works that your book also has auto renewal, which is something we turned on last year. So if you check out a book, you get a notice that says, hi, it's due in 3 days. And if no one's waiting for it, you then get an email saying, hi, we renewed it for you. And it'll renew automatically as long as there are not any holds for the length of the time. And so if you do not return the book after the 3rd renewal, everything stops and it turns to lost on your account. And so then the fee is the cost of the book. But if you return the book, the fee goes away. So it's been wonderful, and it's been very enabling to get more people to be able to not feel bad about the library and to use the library, which is the whole goal.
Yeah, and the books are coming
where
back.
your book just disappears.
The books come back. They come back.
No, but I use Libby a lot, and several times I've been reading away, and actually in the middle of the night it says, "Go back."
Well, ebooks are different because the platform that we use, which is the Overdrive, which is close to being a monopoly, that their system is they have no renewals. That's the way it's set up.
Well, if somebody's waiting for it, yeah,
it won't renew at all. You have to check it out again. But the way the devices work now is that if it goes away and it's available and you check it back out, it should remember where you were when you left off.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
That's pretty cool.
Great. I remember one time I lost a book off Libby, and I went down to Powell's and took it out, and sat in the lobby and finished it.
So,
That's familiar.
Bruce,
I was
I don't know
just
if
a
you're
few
with us.
pages.
Did you have any questions for us? You're the ones who wanted, you suggested that we come today.
Yeah. I'd like to know more about canopy, but I think, well, maybe you can tell me a little bit, and then let's do an article in an upcoming issue, because I think very few people know about canopy. Is that something that you can get on your smart TV?
Yes. If there are apps for smart TVs, there are apps for devices. You can use it on your laptop. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Because I love me some old movies, and sometimes it's hard to find them.
They have a great amount of the Criterion collection, which is all this amazing stuff from the first 3/4 of the 20th century, and fabulous documentaries,
Classic.
tons of public, what you would have seen on public television series. It's like, cool. It's great.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, let's do an article, because I think a lot of, I always assume that if I don't know something, my neighbors don't know it and they might be interested. That's my principle. Any more questions for Peter or Liz? All right. Well, we were prepared to stop early tonight if we ran out of material. So I believe we did. Thank you very much for filling us in on how the library works. Bruce, come back online. He's probably deep in discussion with somebody or something. Oh, well. Bruce? Yeah. I don't even see him on the panelists. He must have left altogether. Oh, well, good thing I'm here.
Hey, thanks for having us, Virginia.
Hey, thank you very much for coming. I've learned a bunch, and I thought I knew everything about the library system. So, but I mentioned in the chat that second edition has very high quality material stuff. I said foot clothing and shoes and household gear. It's not like Goodwill. They're very picky about what they take, and so stop there first if you need something.
Yeah, one of their techniques or themes now is a new shop every day, because they're constantly bringing out new merchandise. It's really amazing. Then a few times a year they do have giant clearance sales, which is coming up soon, where things are knocked down 75% off, and it's really just to clear out to make room for new merchandise. So that's coming up in another week, I think.
The history of second edition is sort of interesting. When I moved to the area, they had the mess at the west end of the building, and but it was only occasionally open, I believe, and then it really evolved to become a high quality retail operation that it is now. Okay, thanks very much.
Hey,
we'll
thank
see
you.
all later.
Bye.
And we'll end the meeting and end the YouTube recording, and see you next month.